49er faithful, fans of the Niner Station, we are back, Thomas, Ryan, and Mark. If you haven't already, please like, subscribe, and share any of our videos. And we're going to jump right into things so we can get out of here pretty quick. It's late on a Tuesday night. We just played the Saints. Training camp week 2. Lots happened, but I don't know about you guys. One thing's been top of mind for me that distracted me from the game. I only watched the first half for one reason. We had a fantasy draft this weekend.
Yeah, Thomas and Ryan, I know I was not part of that draft. We have a draft coming up, but there was a little debate, I guess you could say, at the end of the last pod on who should go 1-1, Ryan's first time having that pick, and then what might happen afterwards depending on what Ryan picked, and Thomas's was picking at 1-4, I believe. So I'm very interested to see and hear who you guys picked. You guys are keeping it a surprise for me, so I'm very excited to get the news on what happened Sunday night during the second half of the Niner game.
Yeah, what's up, guys? Nice seeing you again this week, and I'll keep the suspense going no longer. If you guys listened in our last podcast and listened all the way to the end about our little fantasy football conversation, first of all, thank you for listening that long. But to recap, I did have the 101 pick in Thomas and I, one of our football leagues together. And I was debating on who I should pick with the 101 pick. And we kind of came to a consensus that CMC probably should remain the number 1 pick. And that's ultimately the direction that I went this past fantasy draft. I took CMC with my number 1 pick. I'll just name off my top 3 picks. Second pick, I took Chris Olave at receiver. And third pick, a little controversial. People were giving me a little bit of crap. But I took Pat Mahomes at QB for my number 3 pick.
Bold move.
Yeah, it is a little bold, but I'll leave it at that for now.
Yes, Ryan did end up finally taking our advice, sticking with CMC. Didn't follow Mark's advice to go with Justin Jefferson. You know, in the second round, Ryan's pick was pretty solid. I think that's a decent choice, Chris Olave. And then what happened was Ryan decided to take Patrick Mahomes, and that was actually part of my draft strategy. So it kind of screwed things up for me a little bit. I decided to go, surprisingly, Amon-Ra actually was my choice. He went third. I saw how Jared Goff has so many indoor games, and his proportional stats over his career is, I think he averages, somewhere between 24 and 28 points indoor games. He only plays 3 outdoor games this year out of Detroit, so that's pretty impressive. So I didn't get Amon-Ra. I ended up going with Breece Hall. So Ryan and I both started off with running backs, pretty solid picks. I mean, I do think CMC is going to end up to start the year. Drafting this early is kind of hard because we're so far away from training camp, which has been, let's just say, unnerving, making me question my entire draft strategy, where I took Cooper Kupp in round 2. Matt Stafford is injured. That happened the next Monday or the next day after our draft, which if we were drafting closer to the season, that might have changed my second round strategy. In round 3, I took Travis Kelce. So ended up having a pretty even split there. As the draft unfolded, we won't cover the middle rounds. We're just going to get right to the drama, and I know Ryan is thinking about it.
Did you steal the handcuff? Did you steal the handcuff?
We can talk about that later, or if you want to share it now, Tommy, go for it.
100%.
I do want to say one thing really quickly, and I thought it was pretty neat because for additional context, the 49er preseason game against the Saints was right before our draft. So I was like, okay, I knew in my head I was going to take CMC number 1, but number 2 and beyond was a mystery. It was cool to kind of get a glimpse of the Saints offense and what Clint Kubiak is cooking up there as the offensive coordinator. And let me tell you, their offense is going to be a lot more different than what it was last year. I had Chris Olave in the league last year and got to ride the whole Derek Carr experience. And I could tell you with Clint Kubiak calling plays, it's going to look a lot different. There's going to be a lot more motion, a lot more of like that Kyle Shanahan kind of coaching tree feel to it. So I'm excited, and that's kind of what led me to go with Chris Olave and kind of see what they got going on there.
I like that pick, and I agree. I think he's going to have a big year. If Derek Carr can't succeed in that offense, I just think maybe he's kind of done in the league. So this is a prove it year for him. And even if they kind of bench him, I know Spencer Rattler's a gunslinger, Jake Hayner's a gunslinger, Fresno guy. So Olave's going to get the targets, and if he's healthy, Kubiak will figure out ways to get him open, I think. So that's a solid pick. I like the draft strategy. Both of you guys went running back in the first round. Maybe that gives me insight to what's going to happen in our draft, so I can kind of strategize around that. You guys already know I'm a receiver guy. Amon-Ra would have been a nice pick. I think he's going to have a big year, just got paid. So it sounds like you guys had a good draft, but I want to know, were you able to get the handcuff with Jordan Mason, Ryan, or was someone able to snag that up for you?
Yeah, Tommy unfortunately sniped me the round before.
I knew it.
Tommy, I'm not even sure if you know off the top of your head what round you got him, but
It was late. It was like 11 or 12.
yeah, Tommy kind of got me a little bit because I even though I got Pat Mahomes early, I did ideally want to scoop up Brock at the end, like maybe those later rounds, but of course Tommy Marion here, I think swooped him up too.
Yeah, I took Brock Purdy, I think, in the 7th or 8th. I was going to wait for Herbert or someone, but I figured, you know what, with my lineup, I don't have any Niner players at this point, right? I didn't take Debo, didn't take Aiyuk, I didn't get CMC, haven't taken Kittle. I'm looking at it like, it'd be really fun to continue what I believe in as a Niner fan is Brock Purdy's going to have a better year than last year. So if you add 1 or 2 points, he averaged 19.6 last year and a half-point PPR, I think. Doesn't really matter for quarterbacks. If you have a league with bonuses, he actually threw for 300 yards multiple times. So we have a league with bonuses. So I looked at it like, I believe in the Niners offense. I think they're going to be better this year once Trent Williams signs. He who shall not be named signs. And we have an Avengers lineup again. So yes, I sniped Ryan to get him back. I took Braylon Allen, I think, and then I took Jordan Mason because I didn't want Ryan. I took Jordan Mason early, and then Ryan ended up not paying me back by sniping Braylon Allen to back up Breece Hall. But it worked out in my favor. I think my lineup is pretty solid. I also snagged Nick Chubb late, so it's going to be an interesting year for the Crows Before Hoes. I'm probably going to change my name since we switched our league name, but that's the team name I've had, and I've been in the ship every year, so I think it's the way to go.
Context, it's all the team names were Game of Thrones related team names. So hence,
that
we
makes
just
sense.
we just switched the league title, so Crows Before Hoes has been the team name since I think I joined the league, and we've had it for 10 years. At least.
I think our league name's been the same too forever. It's interesting. So you guys both have Niner players, and you guys are invested not only as fans but as fantasy football general managers.
That's the flaw every single year that I face. Either I ride and die by the 49ers, and hasn't been helping me.
Well, with Jimmy G at the helm, it's different. But we're in.
I was going to ask you guys. Since you guys watched the first half at least. There was a guy that kind of stood out in that first half, so I was wondering if you were going to take him at the end, maybe as a last-round pick, Mr. Irrelevant in the fantasy football realm. Jacob Cowing with the question marks at receiver. I think he was a guy. I think in the first half you saw it, and then even more in the second half, he stood out in this preseason game. I'm curious to see what you guys think about his performance.
I thought Jacob Cowing looked really good in the preseason. He looked electric, and even despite coming back from a hamstring injury, the speed was showcased for sure. And to be fair, I just got started in Dynasty this year, and you best believe I picked up Jacob Cowing pretty early on. So from a Dynasty perspective, super happy to see Jacob Cowing produce. And we talked about it last week. I was hoping that heading into the Saints game that we would get to see our two top receivers, our two rookie receivers, Ricky Pearsall, Jacob Cowing, play. Unfortunately, we only got to see one, which was Jacob Cowing, and we didn't get to see much of Pearsall. And by the sounds of it today, it sounds like one, he's not even going to be practicing the rest of this week. He's not going to be playing in the final preseason game against the Las Vegas Raiders. So that's unfortunate. But yes, to answer your question, Mark, I thought Jacob Cowing was a bright spot. And I'm really excited to see not only how he contributes as a receiver, because we do have a lot of mouths to feed there. However, the cool thing about Jacob Cowing is he can really contribute on special teams, returning punts, and that's going to be a battle too. So we'll see. But I think that special teams, his ability to contribute can really guarantee him that roster spot. So I'm excited to see what he can do.
Oh, man, Jacob Cowing. Man, 4th-round pick, not a running back, actually lands for the 49ers, in my opinion. What's going to be really cool over the next year, hopefully, is could Jacob Cowing, hot take, be our version of Tank Dell?
Okay. I
Think
like
about
that.
it like this. Think about Shanahan seeing Tank Dell last year, going, wouldn't that be cool if I had a player just like that? Jacob Cowing
In the
runs a
Shanahan
4.3.
system.
He's tiny. But he's tiny, but his catch radius in the game is huge. You know who also is probably the same height as Jacob Cowing in the NFL that gets 1,700 yards a year and is nicknamed the Cheetah, and he also has 15 kids?
Come on, Tommy.
If I haven't given it away, we're talking about Tyreek Hill. Now, I'm not saying that Jacob Cowing is going to be Tyreek Hill. What I am saying is I think Kyle Shanahan looks at a guy with that athletic profile, and he says, could I draw plays that once in a while draw similar results to Tank Dell and a guy like Tyreek Hill? Now, he's not as fast as Tyreek Hill. I think Jacob Cowing's in the 4.3s. Tyreek Hill's a 4.2
High
guy.
4.3s. Yeah.
4.3.
Yeah, it's
But
like,
still
4.4 to
fast.
4.2. But, you're going against a corner that's probably not as fast more often than not. So I think that's where the Jacob Cowing pick happened. Yeah, it does suck that we didn't get to see Ricky Pearsall. One thing that we did get to see this game that we didn't see in the first game was cornerback Renardo Green, 2nd-round pick out of Florida State.
Florida State.
And this guy has experience playing against some of the top receivers out of college. For me, I was just really hoping that we hit, because we hit on Mustafa in the 3rd. We hit on Pooney in the 5th, 4th. I can't remember if he was a 4th comp or a 5th.
I think maybe even 3rd.
But in classic Niners fashion, we bust on the 1st-round pick, and we hit in the 3rd, 4th, 5th, as long as it's not a 3rd, 4th, or a 3rd, 4th running back. And so what I saw was Renardo Green. Ryan, I'm going to tell you this. Chris Olave might be good, but he got smacked in the open field by
I saw
Renardo
that.
Green. And that was a play that Renardo Green made. I think he wasn't even guarding Chris Olave on the play. Like, he beat the cornerback to the tackle. And that's a hard fucking play to make. You're talking about a guy coming off, he sees the ball going somewhere else, comes off his man, starts immediately pursuing a perfect angle on Chris Olave, smacks him in open field. And what we're looking at for a 49ers defense, and secondary especially, is an entire group of people that can hit. Diamador Lenore, Renardo Green, Malik Mustafa, Talanoa Hufanga, every single person, even Jair Brown, everyone lays hat. So we're going to have a secondary that's a lot different. And that's one thing that I saw in the first half. Again, didn't watch the second half, had the draft. So this is where we're also seeing one thing I do want to bring up again is similar to the first game. In this game, the Saints played all their starters. Brock had to go against first-team defense. We're talking about Chase Brown, the rest of their D-line. I'm blanking out on their names, but the Saints have been solid for years. What do you guys think about Kyle Shanahan putting Brock Purdy on a fucking on a little platter? Here you go. Coming off an injury last year, risking your quarterback with your not full offensive line, no weapons, and then going against the Saints' full defense. What do you guys think about that?
That definitely wasn't ideal. The Renardo Green thing, real quick, just because I want to make on Baldy's breakdown, he had one on him, and he just showed kind of the same, the physicality, the smarts, the way he plays the game can come in and play, and I think that might give you a little more leeway with the salary cap for certain players who want to get paid that need to be on this team. Because now next year you can maybe get rid of Trivarius Ward, pay Diamador Lenore, and now you have Renardo Green that can play outside as well. So if he can develop, that'd be awesome. That'd make this draft even better. And then the Brock Purdy thing is very frustrating to me. If you're gonna play the starters, you gotta have if you're gonna play Purdy, you gotta have starters out there. I mean, I understand the line; that's the best line that you have because Trent Williams isn't there, Aaron Banks is hurt. That's why the left side of the line wasn't good. But Pooney's a starter. The center's probably going to be a starter. McKivitz was playing, I'm pretty sure. So the line is what it is, but you got to give him the weapons that are going to get open so he doesn't hold on to the ball that long. And I heard on a podcast today that it was his decision to play. Like, he told Shanahan he wanted to play. So if you're going to listen to him as Shanahan, then you have to put players on the field that are going to keep him safe. So I don't mind him not playing, but if he's going to play, it needs to be 1 or 2 series with Debo, Kittle, any starter that's healthy out there so you can see what truly it looks like and not get him hurt.
It's not fun seeing Brock Purdy get hit like that in preseason without his full offensive line, without his weapons. And Brock Purdy himself did say, like you guys said, that he wanted to get out there. He wanted to feel some hits heading into the season, but just the risk of injury, the probability of it happening, just kind of not worth it sometimes. And if anything, Chase Young was doing pretty well out there, and we really got to see the value of Trent Williams and the less amount of hits that Brock Purdy receives on a game-to-game basis. So don't like it, but at least he's healthy coming out of it.
Yeah, not to mention Cody Schrader was his running back, and he didn't help him at all. So you're going 3rd and long every time.
Our boy.
My hot take is looking worse, and it's like looking like a cold take now.
It's getting that way.
It's
kind of...
It's heading towards a freezer.
It doesn't help that Garendo apparently was back today.
He's going to get looks in that 3rd game, you would think, right?
You would have to think, because with Corey Schrader's performance, of course, we probably can't expect to see Schrader out there as well, but we're going to see a lot of Garendo, I expect, too. And we saw some Matt Breida, and Matt Breida still looked good. He still looked like Breida the Cheetah out there. But that's going to be interesting to see in this final game against the Raiders, the running back room. And I'm interested to see Garendo, because this really would be our first glimpse of him in action against other teams.
And, of course, the Niner Station favorite, I think, of the year. I'm going to make a unanimous claim between the 3 of us right now. Our draft pick this year, crush, favorite, whatever you want to call it, Dominic Pooney. I mean, this guy is out there, I said last week, he's a mauler. I mean, he goes out, he looks for contact. He alone could make this draft more successful than plenty of other drafts the Niners have done. He has shown that he can be a first-year starter, which is something that Kyle Shanahan doesn't really do. So I'm going to ask you guys a question. This is unprepared, and I hope you're ready for it. Out of the last couple draft classes, who do you feel most confident in as a starter this year, whether it's a first-year rookie or a second-year rookie, not Dominic Pooney?
First year, last couple of years.
I'll give you.
We haven't had a first-round pick.
Exactly.
We haven't had a first-round pick. So
not Dominic Pooney. Hasn't started. Who do you like?
Well, if you're counting this draft class too, like I would trust Mustafa starting. But I can't think of anybody from last year's draft class that I was like, okay, that's a starter. The draft class before, can't think of anyone that started.
Yeah,
any rookie that started.
I could think of maybe like back to the Renardo Green conversation. Like he has an opportunity to break out this season, and I know it's his rookie season, so him breaking out would just be like a positive for us in general. But there's going to be opportunity for him to play, and hopefully this could be his season to make a name for himself. But yeah, that's who I'm staking my claim in right now.
Well, where I was going with this is you have to think about how we are going to afford a Brock Purdy contract next season. So it's going to have to be because we have other positions that we're already overpaying for today at a lesser value because they're on their rookie contracts and they're late round rookie contracts. So I was thinking maybe guys like D. Winters, Renardo Green, Dominic Pooney are going to replace, unfortunately, Drake Greenlaw, Aaron Banks, and Trivarius Ward, like Mark said earlier. That alone saves us enough money to pay Brandon Aiyuk, Trent Williams, and re-sign Deommodore Lenoir at a rate that's going to keep him locked down as our number one for a couple years. Because I'm envisioning this future defense. It's going to be Fred. It's going to be D. Winters. When Fred wants to re-sign, we're going to think about if we want to do it as a hometown hero or we let him go because he's getting old. He's going to be in his 30s. And we promote, hopefully, D. Winters, right? Deommodore Lenoir. So that way, over the next 5-6 years, we're going to be able to pay a quarterback. We're going to have to create $60 million in cap space. I don't think people think about this. This is long-term Niners talk. But we're paying Brock Purdy $1 million this year. He makes all his money doing Allstate, Tractor, you name it, Alaska Airlines. I mean, he does a bunch of different things. Toyota.
Yeah.
That's how he makes his money right now. But we're going to have $60 million that we're not paying today added to our cap. That's a lot. We're not talking about 30, 40. I mean, I think Brock's going to end up in his 5-year contract. The last couple of years are going to be in the 60s. So where I was going with this is who do you think, essentially the real question is who do you think is going to be a cap saver from the rookie class over the last 3 years?
You know what's going to be interesting that I've kind of been thinking about is like the future of Debo. I'm not sure what the plan is beyond this year, like if we're going to extend him or like what his long-term future is with the 49ers. But we were talking about it earlier. I know Jacob Cowing is not the same stature as a Debo, not the big, strong, burly type who's going to run you over. He's more like the speedy type. However, what if he does have a breakout season and he just has a great rookie season? Like, how does that put Debo's contract in perspective with Brock Purdy's coming up as well? Like, do we pay them both, or are we okay to roll with Cowing, Pearsall, Aiyuk if we resign him? So if we were to go that route, not pay Debo and just roll with our young receivers, like that could be a potential cap saver right there too.
Yeah, I think Debo is interesting, right? I think Cowing can definitely be his replacement. It will look different. It'll look different, but Debo was great for Jimmy G, who could only throw the ball like 5 yards down the field. So you could just get the ball in Debo's hands really quickly. You kind of needed that big kind of muscular guy that can fend off defenders and be that kind of running back, wide back, what they call him. With Purdy, who's a little more accurate, understands an offense and defenses a little bit better, I think anticipation. If you replace Debo with him, then you can get more of like a physical back. You have CMC for the next few years who can do similar things. You get a physical back like Jordan Mason who can kind of be that bruiser for you in that situation. And you just let Cowing kind of be that over the middle guy. And you saw in the preseason game, he had that end around that he broke for like 14 yards. So he can still be that motion guy. He's not going to line up at running back, but he can be that motion guy for you. And you can get that physicality out of a different runner through a running back position. And he does kind of give you that versatility. But if he doesn't go out there, I think with those other guys, like you said, Renardo Green, if he can step in as cornerback 2, Lenoir can shift over to cornerback 1. Charvarius Ward is gone, save some money. I would argue you sign Lenoir maybe the first or second week of the season this year. Maybe get a discount for doing it early if he's showing to be good. So that flexibility there, linebacker. I think there's a lot of young linebackers that played well in this last game. Curtis Robinson looked good. Tatum Bethune from Florida State looked really good. Second game in a row leading tackles. I think he had 10 tackles. Not a big guy, but always in the right spot. Kind of, was it Chris Borland? Remember Chris Borland? He only played for a little while.
He reminds me exactly of Borland. That's a perfect comp.
Undersized, but very smart, always in the right position. So he makes up with that lack of size and athleticism with understanding of the game. And if he's next to Fred Warner, you can have that type of linebacker. So I think the linebacker position, Mustafa gives you flexibility, not have to pay a safety. There's a lot of young guys in this. Pooney can replace Aaron Banks. A lot of young guys that can save you money and allow you to keep Debo if he has a good year. So that's my opinion.
I didn't even think about Mustafa replacing Huff, who I am.
Yeah.
I'm rocking my Huff jersey today. That is possible. I mean, what if Huff doesn't come back the same? He wasn't that fast before. I'm just saying worst case scenario. I'm a Huff fan. I'm obviously wearing the jersey. But that is another place that we're going to save. We could potentially save money at. So we're talking about a safety, a guard, a receiver,
linebacker.
A linebacker.
corner.
right? Also, Dre Greenlaw is up. His contract's up this year,
Yep.
right? D. Winters and Bethune, right? Bethune is
Jalen
3.
Graham looked good.
Jalen Graham looks good, and like you said, Bethune from Florida State, man, that guy has a nose for football. It's nuts, like, and that's what we're asking from our weak side linebacker position. All right, that's what Greenlaw does. We just want a guy that's going to sniff out the ball and pursue line of line. So that's perfect. So you know what? In a world, I think as we're negotiating with, I'll bring it up. Hugh shall not be named. BA number 11, former Arizona State player. I don't know how else we can describe him. Hopefully, this gives it away to our listeners, and
Mike
thank you for
Tomlin's
listening
son.
this long. Yeah, Mike Tomlin's son, apparently. Daddy issues. How could we afford him? Well, this is one way, right? We're looking at the potential to do it, and I think that John Lynch is looking at the lineup going, okay, we actually might have hit on enough positional players where they line up with contracts that we're going to have to negotiate with that are supposed to go up in value, right? So we're hurting your new cap space, even though the cap space goes up every year. We still have to think about the positional an advantage in having cap space. I don't know this year if we have 30 to 50 million, something like that, currently open, but we could roll over 2030 so we can pay Brock early and front load his contract, along with these negotiations that we've discussed. So as the whole cut season starts and whatnot, I want everyone to pay attention to the roster. Is Bethune going to make it? He's the only person that's lower because you're right, Mark. Curtis Robinson that we got back. So happy to see that guy back as a Niner, because when we lost him, it was kind of a bullshit loss. Like, I thought he was better than Flanagan Fowles, and this year he's proving it.
Yeah,
So we
definitely.
should have kept him, because
Flanagan Fowles might get cut.
I think let's just jump right into it. Cut candidates. I think Flanagan Fowles, that's exactly where I was going, is going to not make this team. Danny Gray, gone. And then I'll do one more and I'll let you guys take over. I think we're not going to cut Raw. I guess this is like a loophole cheat in my own question. I think Joshua Dobbs is traded for like a 7th round pick.
I think so.
And that's why
team that comes to mind. Team that comes to mind is maybe like a New York Giants.
How about the Minnesota Vikings?
I think threw 2 picks. The Minnesota Vikings need a backup.
He played there.
So these teams that are quarterback desperate, trade him. There's not much of a drop off between him and Brandon Allen. So I think if you can trade him, and then Mordecai, I mean, he only has 6 passes, but he looked athletic. He threw the ball accurately, it looked like. If he can be your kind of third string emergency quarterback, again, if you get to your third string emergency quarterback, what happened with the Niners 2 years ago is not usually what happens. Usually are not very good. So if you can get anything for Dobbs or even Allen, whichever one can get you a draft pick or 2, or a 6th or 7th round draft pick, if one of those guys can get it, make the trade, roll with Mordecai as your young third string guy, and maybe you had another gem in Mordecai. So I think the trading of a quarterback is a real possibility, along with other cuts, obviously.
I kind of have a similar sentiment for Elijah Mitchell. I'm kind of curious how you guys feel. Like, similar to what you were just saying about Josh Dobbs or BA, other quarterback. Like, if we can get any sort of draft capital or value from that, like, that would be awesome. And right now, even though it is a little muffled, the running back room, there is a lot of value in Elijah Mitchell. And I think a lot of other teams, especially as the season progresses and injuries start to accumulate around the league, like, that's a pretty valuable asset to have. And we have a lot of confidence in Jordan Mason, and a lot's to be seen with Garindo, our guy Corey Schrader, and hopefully CMC remains healthy. Like that's a big part too. But if we can get a reasonable trade or draft capital for Elijah Mitchell, I think that would be a plus. But in terms of cut candidates, I'm looking at the receiver room and I'm looking more specifically at Trent Taylor or Chris Conley or whoever is going to get cut from that receiver group. Because I did mention earlier that, Jacob Cowing, he's starting to showcase what he can do on the field. I think the team knows how he can contribute on special teams. And that was kind of what Trent Taylor was brought in to do too, to help out in special teams and to even be a good mentor of sorts for the team. But I'm kind of curious to see who's going to get cut there. And unfortunately, the quality time with Trent Taylor may be cut short for this year.
Yeah, and the receiver room is crowded this year at the roster bubble. I do think that the other person to think about is Ronnie Bell.
Yep.
Similar draft capital. I think him and Danny Gray are both third-round picks, I think.
Yeah, mid rounds, yeah.
Something like that. But we're looking at, is Kyle Shanahan pleading the case that these guys can turn it around? Danny Gray's had more than enough opportunity. Ronnie Bell can block. And I've seen Ronnie Bell in person at preseason games do well. This year, it's not exactly the same results, I would say. I think he had a drop ball that would have probably changed his overall stats enough to bump him up above people like Chris Conley, Tay Martin, and Danny Gray. But Trent Taylor's is someone that was brought in because his special teams ability, like Ryan said, and Jacob Cowing just show that he's probably better. So you're going to keep Jacob Cowing no matter what, I think, now, because he's actually shown NFL game film that he's good. So he's not going to clear waivers. So you have to keep Jacob Cowing. You don't have to keep Ronnie Bell, Chris Conley, Tay Martin, Danny Gray. I think we're going to probably see in the first round of cuts 2 of those people gone.
Actually, Trent Taylor possibly could be on the
practice squad.
On the practice squad, but
he'll clear waivers.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll see pretty soon.
Yeah, I think your 6 receivers are. Let's assume number 11's on the team. So you have him, Debo, Juwan Jennings,
Pearsall.
I think he might start on the IR. To be honest with you,
that would be
wouldn't
crazy.
Be the worst case. So
because then you could keep another receiver, right?
Yeah.
And so then you could let's say he starts on the IR. So you have Debo, Juwan, and number 11, and then you have Cowing, and you have I like Chris Conley.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's he's a versatile guy, and he's another guy that also has special teams ability. And then so that leaves you Ronnie Bell, Trent Taylor, Danny Gray. And I think I would keep Ronnie Bell because he also brings you more of a special teams value over Danny Gray and Trent Taylor. And I think both of those guys might make the practice squad. So, because I don't think anybody's picking up Danny Gray and probably not Trent Taylor. So I think stashing Pearsall on the IR, which I've heard some podcasts talking about, and I was like, that's actually not a bad idea. Don't rush him back. Bring him back 4 weeks into the season when he's healthy so he can kind of ease his way in, and we don't have a long-term soft tissue injury. So I think that would be your 6 with Pearsall being stashed on IR.
Now that Garendo's back, I think that because you only have 5 IR spots for the initial pup. It's like the 4 week.
It's not the pup. Yeah, it's like a new.
No, but we can put him on the 4 week pup.
Yeah,
that we have
you could do that. Yeah,
and that doesn't count against your roster, is what I was saying. So similar to putting him on IR, same concept, right? We're taking a player that we've invested in. We're making sure that he doesn't count against the cap, or he counts against the cap. He doesn't count against the roster spot. Is where I was going with this. And then that allows us. I do think Chris Conley edges out people. I don't know if Ronnie Bell clears waivers. Danny Gray would. You're absolutely right. Danny Gray and Trent Taylor probably would, because Trent Taylor, he's had lots of opportunities, and when he was on the Niners and he got him in a game situation, he looked good, right? Trent Taylor initially was pretty solid. He was like a poor man's Hunter Renfrow. and that was when Hunter Renfrow was putting up 1,300 yards. So, everyone thought he was going to be that quick, shifty guy. Special teams contribution is awesome so far. I think he's like I trust Trent Taylor back there, unlike other he who shall not be named Kyle Williams. But you're right. I think at that range, I'd look at Trent Taylor making it to the practice squad, but maybe not because he actually has shown pretty decent snaps.
Danny Gray would.
I think Danny Gray will. I don't think Ronnie Bell will. That's where I and Chris Conley has shown enough to where, I feel like a team like the Bills, who just lost Curtis Samuel, my 9th round pick, to turf toe. So it just kind of makes me think about who might make it based off what's already happened. This is why you don't draft early in fantasy. But yeah, I think Ronnie Bell might not. Do you guys agree with that?
I could see it. I wouldn't be surprised.
Or Chris Conley, one of the two, right? We have to pick between the two.
I think Chris Conley for sure makes it over. I'd rather have Chris Conley over Ronnie Bell.
No,
I think Conley gets picked up.
I think they both have a chance. You think Conley has a better chance?
It's tough with Conley because he's 31 years old, so people may view that as it is. But with Ronnie Bell, at least he has the youth to, back him up a little bit.
Yeah, I don't know what the receiver depth in New Orleans is, but that's a Shanahan guy, right? So, you have so many Shanahan guys out there now. If there's a team that needs a receiver, they've seen Conley kind of be able to produce. He can block, that he knows the system. One of those young guys could snag him, I think. Where a Ronnie Bell, if they snag him, then okay, you keep Danny Gray. He's your 7th receiver. If you're to your 7th receiver, it's not usually a good thing. So I would keep Chris Conley. And again, I think Tay Martin might even make the practice squad. So you could have Danny Gray and Tay Martin, two type of bodies at the receiver position on your practice squad. So that's the route I would go. I would make sure Conley's on this team. He makes big plays in the special teams, in the playoffs, as receiver. So I like Chris Conley.
That's it. All I had to talk about. Do you guys have anything extra?
One thing, I can make it quick. I thought it was pretty interesting that we heard a lot from Cameron Latu and Braden Willis these past preseason games. Obviously, we love George Kittle. George Kittle's our guy. And the reality is, if he does get injured, knock on wood this season, those guys would have to step up in his place. And I thought at some points during the preseason, they looked pretty good at times, and even in blocking situations. Just wanted to see if you guys caught on to that too.
I was just really quick. Seeing Cameron Latu actually catch a pass was pretty cool because all I read about is that he can't catch. He's just a big dude out there blocking. But Niners released Logan Thomas. Our second string tight end is up in the air. We'll probably keep 3 though. I think it's
Saubert. I think
Saubert's got it, but what's weird, you get that cost-benefit reward here with showcasing that these guys are actually decent at tight end because we're not the only team with tight end problems. Mark Andrews today had an injury off day from his car accident. So, there's other teams that are going to need a little bit of depth. And, I got a lot of Mark Andrews in best ball. So that wasn't a fun update. Again, don't draft early in fantasy football if you can avoid it. That's easy advice. But yeah, that's what I saw, from this week.
Yeah, I think they told Latu, hey, man, you are probably not going to make this team. We're going to give you a shot out there. We're going to throw you the ball, prove that you can do it in a game situation. And I'll say he made the most of his opportunity. He caught the ball when it was thrown to him. Looked like he blocked pretty well. So I think he played well. I think it's going to be Kittle, Saubert. Willis is probably going to be the third guy. Maybe you can get a 7th-round pick for Latu for a tight end needy team. He's still young. And then I think they've been stashing Mason Pline. They haven't been playing him in the games because I think they don't want him to get poached by another team through waivers and make sure he makes it on the practice squad. I was really excited to watch him play in the preseason, but that's kind of based on the way they've been playing these guys. They played that guy from Cal a bunch. the other guy who's not going to make the team, who's actually played pretty well. He's just very small for a tight end. I think they're stashing Pline to make sure he makes a practice squad. So I think it's Willis, Saubert, Kittle, and then Pline on the practice squad.
Well. I have the exact same opinion about Pline. Tinfoil cap on. I think that Shanahan let Kubiak coordinate and isn't playing certain players, like Jordan Mason had a hip injury day of, right? Because he goes, let's not show any of the offense that people will see week 1 when I'm calling the plays and when likely Jordan Mason is starting because I'm going to rest Christian McCaffrey. And George Kittle might be hurt early in the season. So we're just going to stash our massive athletic tight end and not show anything in any games and hope that the reporters don't show anything. And what we'll do is we'll just do team practices where the reporters have visibility and not do any of those plays. But when they're not there, I think Mason Pline is crushing it. Now, this is also just 100%. We have no evidence. We're not at training camp. We don't have anything. But I think Mason Pline is a player that's better than the other tight ends, and he is not getting any preseason film for a reason. I agree with you, Mark. But I guess, here we are, Ryan. Thank you for that last little tidbit, because the tight end room is another area that we should probably cover. So we'll probably lead off next week with a little bit of tight end updates after the last preseason game against the Raiders. I do want to close out with one quick update. We have not done this yet, but a quick happy birthday to Mark. Welcome to the 32 Club, my friend. If you haven't already, please like, subscribe, and share our YouTube video. But thanks for listening, and we'll close out here. Bang, bang.
Niner gang.
Niner gang. Happy birthday, Mark.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.